If you're anything like us, then you're a huge fan of public media broadcasting, and you also love food. And if you check both of those boxes, then you're probably familiar with today's guest. Pati Jinich is host of the James Beard Award-winning, Emmy-nominated PBS television series, Patti's Mexican Table. She's also author of 2 cookbooks, and she's sitting right across the table from me. Patti, welcome to Daily Detroit.
Thank you so much for having me, Sven. It's been a pleasure. Randy here already made me shop.
Yeah, producer Randy over there. We have him to thank for setting this up. He caught you on Twitter saying, I'm coming to Detroit. Where should I go eat? What are you doing in Detroit?
So this is what's been fascinating, Sven, that I have spent the last 12 years trying to show my Mexico to the U.S. and break myths and preconceptions about who we are Mexicans, what we eat, what we look like. And right now, I'm having to travel to so many cities in the U.S. for different reasons, either because I'm doing cooking demos or some media or just work projects. And as I am touching down on each city, I started just, tapping into this incredible community of friends that watches the show or that uses my site or downloads recipes from Pati Jinich. And I've been asking Americans in their cities, what should I eat? Where should I go? And I'm getting the most incredible feedback. So now, whenever I'm going to go to a new city, I don't do online research. I just tweet, hey guys, where do I go? And people have been so generous. And that's how I connected with Randy. Because the wonderful thing is that if people don't know what to recommend, they will tap on the experts they follow. So that's how I connected with him.
I know you got a lot of response to your tweet. I'm sure much more than you have time to do and visit and everything. But I half expected you to be followed by a camera crew today. Are you doing work here? Are people going to be able to see?
So yes, so we finished right before I got here. We're taping some new content that we're hoping to include in the next season or some new project that we may do. So I'm now trying to sort of trace the evolution of Mexican food in the U.S. And so we did that a little bit for the last couple of days. But of course, I wanted to taste Detroit's classics. So people are going to be able to see what we were working on yesterday and today in a few months on social media and hopefully in an upcoming episode next year.
And so that'll be on because you're on season 7 right now, so it'll be season 8.
Right,
okay.
Right.
All right, so tell us a little bit. I'm sure you don't want to give away too much, but where have you been? What have you eaten here in Detroit? And what are your impressions?
And I don't know, because I share so much. I'm so transparent. It's ridiculous. I made a list and I tweeted my list and I Instagram my list, so I'll tell you what I did because I got such great feedback.
She's pulling out a notebook for reference here.
My doctor handwriting. So, I tried to make a list according to what was repeated or recommended the most. And the things that, do you call Detroit people Detroiters or Detroitians?
Detroiters. Detroitians. I like that. That's interesting.
It sounds much more historic, right? But so the number one thing that people recommended were the coneys. And the fascinating thing also, life is full of fascinating things, is that so many of these things I had never heard of. So the first thing was a coney. And what I got from social media was that I needed to try 2 rivals, the Coney American and the Lafayette, and I was being forced to choose between the 2. So I tried the 2, and it was really an incredible experience because one of my follower friends on Twitter who I had never met, he was asking me, "Are you doing a live event or something that people can meet you at or something?" And I said, well, no, we were taping yesterday, but you can meet me at the Coney's if you want. And we met with this adorable guy, David, and he's a Detroiter, and he shared so much information. And the funny thing is, he's a Lafayetter.
Okay.
And he said that he had never stepped foot in the Coney.
In American Coney.
American Coney. And I said, well, since you met up with me, now you're in this with me, so now you have to try both with me. Sorry. So our intent was to go to Lafayette first, but we walked into American Coney first. And it was the first time that he or anybody in his family for generations
Wow.
had stepped in there, and he tried it with me. And I have to say, it was delicious. The owner, Grace, was there, and she gave me the whole history about her Greek immigrant grandfather and why he named it, the American coney, and why he started making it, and how the chili has a Greek origin. And I thought this sausage was really snappy and delicious, and the bun was nice and soft and sturdy, like the chili, like the mustard, like the onion. But then we went to Lafayette, and I have to say, I would love to combine the two.
Okay.
Because I would take the bun of the American coney, and I would take the sausage of the American coney because it's snappy, much more snappier than the Lafayette. And I felt it had a bolder taste. But I like the flavor of the chili better in Lafayette because it's lighter, it's less meaty, gamey, and it made for a less intense experience.
Okay.
And I also like that in Lafayette, they add a lot more chopped raw onion. And I love raw onion, especially over chili. And so like right there, when I was eating both, I said, if I had to choose between one or the other, and I'm really hungry right now, I'd go to Lafayette because I love the onions and the chili much more. But if I had my way, which I know I can't, I would mix the two. I would take the chili and the onions for Lafayette, and I would take the sausage and the meat from the American coney.
Well, that's a great, very Detroit introduction to Detroit, and also great introduction to, one of the things that you're passionate about, obviously, on your show, because I'm a fan, as I mentioned, is just like the stories behind food and the stories of what food means to us and everything. It's really incredible. You travel all around the world in search of stories like that, right? At least to Mexico.
I live for stories, Ben. I live for stories that then I can eat. I don't know if you know, but I used to be a political analyst before, and I worked in think tanks, and I'm a history buff. I'm a history nerd. I can't get enough of information. But by jumping into food, I've been able to really touch on that history and eat it, which is just amazing because I'm a gigantic eater. And you're a petite woman too. Like you're. Thank you. I think I'm much shorter than I used to think. So in Mexico, I was the tallest one in my high school. The tallest, by far. And, when I was in middle school, then high school, people started catching up with me. But, there's a certain age where you create the image of yourself that you then are stuck with. So I used to think of myself as a tall woman. And then I married and moved to Texas. And I kept thinking of myself as tall until an American friend, I was saying something, because I'm so tall. And he said, Patti, you were so petite. And it just the image of me just crashed in front of my eyes. And I realized I am petite, but I do it a lot. But so that was my first introduction to Detroit.
I'd imagine you probably have gone down to Southwest Detroit to visit some of the Mexican eateries here in town.
Yes. So that wasn't my first Detroit bite. My first Detroit bite was Buddy's, the pizza.
Okay, so the Coney wasn't, but Buddy's was your first bite.
Yeah, so the first bite was the Buddy's.
Detroit-style pizza,
yeah. And that's the only Detroit-style pizza I tried, and I thought it was fabulous.
First time trying that style pizza.
First time I heard that there was something called Detroit pizza.
Because, it's starting to slowly kind of, I think there's a place in Austin, Texas now that makes Detroit-style pizza, in Brooklyn, New York. It's starting to kind of export itself out.
Yeah. Well, actually, it was a month ago that I heard of the term Detroit-style pizza. I don't know if you've heard about Francisco Migoya. He's this fabulous Mexican chef who just won the James Beard Award for a single subject cookbook. He did a book on bread, and he's now working on a book on pizza. And we went to visit him in Seattle a month ago, and he was testing recipes for pizza, and he said he was testing Detroit-style pizza, and it was the first time I heard of it. And then when I was coming here, I thought, is this really a thing, or is he just making it up? No, it is really a thing.
Yeah.
So I think it needs to be a national thing because that cheesy crust and no middle is incredible.
You like it, yeah.
I loved it.
Excellent. So, did you get down to Southwest Detroit at all?
So I did just today.
Okay.
So I went to a bakery, to Mexican Town Bakery.
Okay.
And I had, we call them in Spanish an oreja, which is the palmier.
Mm-hmm.
But Mexican bakeries make them much bigger.
Mm-hmm.
And I had a palmier, and I had what we call a oreja, which translates to ear. And so
it's a pastry, not a real.
It's a pastry. Yeah, it's like a puff pastry that's just rolled with a ton of butter and a ton of sugar. And
nothing wrong with that.
Of course not. And it gets super crispy and much more brown on the edges. And then it gets deliciously chewy as you get down to the middle. And it was great because I talked to the people in the bakery. And as always, when you go to a Mexican town in a city in the United States, you realize that there's Mexican people from very different regions in Mexico.
Yeah.
And I mean, that for Mexicans is amazing.
Yeah. A lot of them here in Detroit, from what I've been told by someone who grew up there, are from Jalisco State on the west coast of Mexico.
Yeah. And, Mexicans were very, very local. Mm-hmm. I'm from Mexico City. I'm a Chilanga. I'm like a diehard Chilanga. And people from Jalisco are very, very loyal to their cuisine and their dishes. But what happens when you put together Mexicans from different places and they have the regional foods is that everybody starts sharing. Mm-hmm. Their ways. So you will find a panaderia in the U.S. that you won't find any place in Mexico. Because when you go to a panaderia in Jalisco, it's only the Jalisco style bread and some breads that are common to all of Mexico. But here, when you go to a Mexican panaderia in the U.S., you find breads from all over Mexico or that have, a majority of the breads of the panadero, of the bread maker that's there.
Yeah.
They were making pan de muerto, by the way. You guys should try that if people haven't tried it, which is the specialty bread for Day of the Dead.
Mm-hmm. Oh, interesting.
And it's delicious. It's like an egg yolk leavened bread with a ton of sugar on top.
It seems to me like Mexican food's really having like a moment in the United States now. I'm struck by the fact that it seems like you can go to even small towns across the country, pick a random small town, and chances are at least decent, that at least somewhere around there is going to be a restaurant serving authentic Mexican food, not like, the chimichangas and wet burritos of like the Americanized stuff that used to, populate or, pass as Mexican food, but like good Mexican food. I mean, it's really incredible. You see these places pop up in places you don't even expect.
Sven, I think that Mexican cuisine, Mexican food is riding the biggest wave of popularity in its history. And I see the wave just picking up more height, And I think not only is it going to pick up more height, but I think it's then going to continue growing. Like I don't see how it's going to go down because what's happening is that Mexican cuisine is evolving outside of Mexican borders in beautiful and delicious ways. So you have Mexican regional food. So what you're saying is so true. Mm-hmm. I haven't met one city in the U.S. that doesn't have a food stand that's Mexican or an underground diner or anything that's offering, or a food truck that's offering some kind of Mexican food truck. But not only are these usually Mexican cooks, sometimes they're not even Mexican. In DC, it's full of Salvadorians making Mexican food because they think they can sell tacos better than pupusas, you know? Yeah. So you see all these different food stands that are selling one or another kind of regional Mexican food, but then these groups of people, just like me or like any other immigrant, they start growing roots where they are and the food starts changing in a very Mexican way because it's Mexicans mostly who are making them. They're using Mexican techniques. So you're having Cal Mex and Boston Mex and New York Mex. And so I just see the tide going high. So
very diverse cuisine too, as you've sort of alluded. You grew up in a Jewish Mexican family. Your grandparents were Eastern European.
Yes. So
I'm curious. That's really fascinating combination. Was there any kind of crossover in the food that you grew up eating? Was it like, did you have like matzo ball soup, like seasoned with epazote or something?
Yes, absolutely. So, and I've been asked this question a lot. You know, I come just from a line of immigrants. In my family, 2 of my grandparents came from Poland. So yesterday I went to Polish Village Cafe and had the most amazing food and ate some of the food that I used to eat at my grandmother's house. And on my other side, on my maternal side, they came from Austria and from Czechoslovakia. But I'm a second generation Mexican, And I learned firsthand from my grandparents, who were so grateful to be embraced by Mexico and welcomed by Mexico, how to interweave and intermarry what they came to Mexico with and all the blessings and ingredients. I mean, the flavors and the techniques are such blessings for Ashkenazi food, because Ashkenazi food can be so bland.
Ashkenazi?
Ashkenazi is the Jewish Eastern European food, different from the Sephardic Jewish food, which is so delicious, which is very similar to Lebanese food.
Right.
So I grew up with that. And Mexican Jewish food is not just one or two dishes that have jalapenos thrown in the pot. There is something, as Mexican Jewish food that's big and wide and has been in existence for 500 years.
Yeah. Your kids often make cameo appearances on your show as you're, cooking in the kitchen and everything. Did you ever have to deal with them as like picky eaters, or did they kind of bypass that stage altogether and you got lucky?
No, I didn't get lucky. I mean, we're food obsessed. I would say that my most enthusiastic eater is my youngest one, because he's seen us all devour. But my middle son, and I think it has to do with him being a sandwich. He was stuck between my youngest one, who wants to get attention all the time, and then the oldest brother, who's the firstborn and, gets the firstborn attention. So as my sandwich, and he knows it because we've talked about it, and he says he did sort of do it on purpose. He just would eat 3 things and it would drive me crazy. For years, it was rice, cream cheese sandwich, just on white sandwich bread, and pasta. And I would beg and I would plead and I would cry, and he loved it. Until one day I said, okay, no more. And then he started eating what everybody else started eating. And now I think he's even more adventurous than my youngest one. I mean, I just had to stop asking.
Yeah. What advice do you give to people like out there who like are, maybe novices, but want to try to prepare Mexican dishes at home? I mean, do you need like a lot of specialty ingredients or knowledge, or? That's
a great question. And I think you really don't. I think that Mexican cuisine is as accessible as we Mexicans are. We're just easy. If you try something and it didn't turn out phenomenal, you just warm up a tortilla and you tuck it in a taco and it throws some guacamole and it's perfect, or salsa. I think that's one of the biggest myths of Mexican cooking, that it is laborious or extremely spicy or cumbersome or complex. And you have Mexican cuisine is incredibly rich. You find from the communal dishes like a mole poblano, which takes a full day to make, and it's best if 10 people make it, or tamales. But then you have a lot of daily food that's easy and delicious and nutritious, and all you need is tomato, onion, and garlic, and So no, easy. So I just say lose the fear and play with your food, like give your space in the kitchen to give yourself the time to get to know those ingredients. But once you hone in on a Mexican dish or a Mexican ingredient, you own it. Yeah. And it's part of your repertoire.
So you got here in Detroit yesterday?
Yes.
And then you're here tonight too, or are you?
And I'm here. Yeah, so I'm here tonight, and then I'm working full time tomorrow. And what day is today? Wednesday.
Today is Wednesday.
So Thursday and Friday, I'm going to be all day doing some recipe and food technique videos. So I'm going to be in a studio somewhere up in Troy. Yeah. But I think I'm going to have some free time when I'm done at night for dinner. So I'm going to keep on asking people for suggestions.
Sounds great. Well, we hope you are enjoying your stay here and that you learned some more great stuff. Sounds like you've already been pretty well immersed. Pati Jinich is host of Patti's Mexican Table. You can find her work at patijinich.com. We'll put a link in the show notes. Patti, thanks so much for coming on. What a delight.
Thank you
so much fun to talk with you.
I'm loving Detroit. People are so friendly.